There we go.
Yay!
Hello.
You're all right.
I'm good. Nice to see you.
And
Are
you?
you
Yeah.
recovered from MCM yet?
Just about, just about. Yeah.
So, for anyone who doesn't know who this is Katie, otherwise known as Katie Does Cosplay. Did you want to say a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah,
Mhm.
sure. So, well, I'm a cosplayer, first of all. And I've been doing cosplay since 2018. Um, it's been a lot of trial and error since then, but I've done like lots of different builds as well. Like I don't just stick to one sort of style, but I think I'm now starting to lean more into sewing as kind of my specialty. But yeah, I've experimented a lot along the way.
Good on you. Sewing is like I've kind of learnt to sew within the last 2 years, and I swear it's a hard feat. Like it's not something that you just go, oh yeah, and it's the people are like, oh, can you just fix this? Can you just do this? Which I'm like with my husband, Mr. Ash. I'm always like, oh, can you just fix this? And it's like, that's not a 2 minute thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people underestimate how tough sewing can be, especially when it's going to be done well. It's
Yeah.
a very long time.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, this is the second episode of Ash Asks. I'm really really thankful for Katie joining me here today. Everyone's saying like they really love your ear.
Yeah, I picked these up last weekend. I went to a really cute it was a medieval market and yeah, and like all the girlies, I loved it so much because they were like we were with a couple of lads as well, like obviously partners and boyfriends.
Mm.
But like one of us got like a set and then everyone else, all the girlies were like, I'm gonna go get mine.
Matching.
So then we all got and it was really cute because they all suited the person, like each colour that everyone got
Oh,
suited
that's
the
cute.
person that they got
Oh,
them.
I love that. I love that because one of
That's
my original characters is purple. So like everything I see that like I'm like any type of like Comic Con or anything that's purple, I'm like, oh, I might need that.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I was like, well, when I have my lilac hair again, it'll blend in a bit better. So
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it.
couldn't resist.
So I'm gonna dive straight in with the questions if that's all right with you. Just sort of just go on with the questions. But I sort of like the first kind of thing I really wanted to ask is I mean personally for me I don't really have a very exciting inspiration story, but like I wondered if you sort of had a thing that made you want to start cosplaying, like inspired you to start cosplaying or crafting or anything. Like did you have a moment that was like, yes, I want to do this?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that especially have like a really cool one. Like I feel a bit like yourself there, like where it's sort of like I just kind of got into it. Yeah, no, I mean, I went to my first Comic Con, which was an MCM one in technically in 2015. So that was with my best mate,
Hmm.
and we just did like really budget kind of cosplays and stuff, and it was. I'd never ever been to anything like one
Hmm.
before, so I had no idea what to expect. And we got there for like general entry, I think it was, and and we were walking around, and then I was like, oh my god, there's all these like really cool like costumes and everything, and I just didn't know so much about it, and I was like, oh my god, they've even got their own personal like professional photographers walking around for
Yes.
them. And then yeah, I saw the costume competition, and that was kind of the biggest thing that got me into it. Really, I was like, yeah, I want to get up there and give that a go. But then a few years passed by, and I didn't go again until 2018 was the next one. Again, both Birmingham ones, not the big London ones, and. And again, I sort of went round with some mates and we watched a little bit of the cosplay competition, and it just reignited that passion for me. I was kind of like, yeah, I want to do this. And seeing the level of detail that some people were going to with these costumes, it was like awe-inspiring, really, like the amount of patience
Yeah.
people have.
And it really is like that. It is that difference between sort of seeing these things on stage and being like, oh my gosh, that's fantastic, and that sort of having that moment of like, oh, I could never do that, and then going,
Mm.
oh wait, I could do that kind of thing, and having that sort of moment of like, because obviously at MCM I saw you on stage and seeing you doing your crafting from like Instagram and stuff like that, and your stories and stuff and how you've been doing your bits and pieces. And then to seeing the whole finished product on stage, or not, maybe not finished, I don't know, but then we all always add
There's
stuff.
always
But
something.
but yeah, to see that sort of brilliant final look at that point, and see that from your crafting stages, and all because you were putting on your story about how you were worried about like the glue being able to be seen and stuff, and I was like, damn, I can't see it at all. Like it's fabulous. Like and I think that is really inspiring as well to see other people do all the behind the scenes stuff, and then see people like yourself as well on stage going like showing it off kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think for me as well, it's like I've always kind of enjoyed getting up on stage. Now I know for a lot of people that's definitely a big, like, absolutely not. And obviously, I'm not saying that you have to, that you must be into doing cosplay comps, because I appreciate not everyone is. But yeah, like and it was kind of, I think, just the crafting side really as well. Like just I've always been creative. I always loved arts, crafts, everything like that. And just being able to do that and be like, right, okay, yeah, let's dive in and give it a go. And obviously, like everyone, you all start somewhere, and my first builds were definitely interesting.
I think I have some questions about your early on builds. Don't you worry. So um I just sort of like, out of everything that you've sort of made and created so far, and even like if you haven't just created, but like cosplay wise, what has been your favorite thing to sort of be in? I think I have an inkling of what your answer is going to be, but I'll let you know if I was right, I guess. But
Right. So my favorite. So do you mean as in favorite thing to like wear? Do you mean like to
yeah,
cosplay?
yeah. So what do you sort of go out on the con floor, or like you're even at home or wherever, and just go, I feel really confident, like I feel like this is it, this is me, like I like this.
I mean, it's tough. Am I allowed more than one?
Yes, absolutely. Please do. Please do. I love that.
Yeah. So I would say if you were to have asked me that question a couple of years ago, it would have been 100% Tomb Raider. It would have been Lara
That was
Croft.
my guess.
Yeah, Lara Croft, absolutely. Anyone who doesn't know me, she is my absolute like idol. Loved her ever since I was a kid. So to be able to just be her, basically,
Yes, yeah,
my favorite, and it just gives me ridiculous amounts of confidence. And I think, if anything, if I am walking around as her in any situation, like, people are probably a little bit scared because I just get sassy, and I'm like,
yeah. I
yeah.
love that. I love it when a cosplay brings out the sass. I think that's brilliant.
And then it's like the RBF face also comes out as
Oh
well.
yeah.
But I think Karlak as well, because she's different, because she's just so much fun, and she lets you be like, yes, she has her serious moments, but she's also quite silly. And I think that was really refreshing as a cosplayer, and just so much fun to be. And I think it's really weird because sometimes I've cosplayed a character and gone, oh yeah, I love them, I think I'm going to feel amazing. And then I felt the opposite when I actually put them together. And then I've been like, oh yeah, that wasn't for me. And then I've had other characters do the reverse, where I'm like, oh, I'm not sure I'm going to pull this off. And then suddenly I'm like, actually, I love this. And
Yeah, I think
amazing, yeah.
two characters for me that were both the same as that were Karlak and Shadowheart. When I first got into them, I was like, I don't think that this is for me. Like, I don't think, and bear in mind, as I'm sure you're aware, when you go cosplay Karlak, you are covered in red. So, like, you've literally just spent X amount of time doing covering yourself. And then
Yeah.
I stood in front of my camera and I was like, I don't like it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
literally.
Sometimes that happens though, isn't it? I mean, and even maybe if, say, if you've made it as well, and you're like, I've spent all these hours, and then again you've got the makeup potentially on top of that, and
Yeah.
you're like, I don't like it. But sometimes I'll do like a cos test, and it's like a half cos test, and I've maybe not got the wig, or maybe I've put everything on but just not done my makeup. And I think sometimes that those extra little steps pull the whole thing together. But yeah, it's an interesting one, because you never truly know how you're going to feel
Yeah,
as the character.
absolutely. And I think that's always the problem bit when putting so much attention to detail into making a cosplay. Is like, you're halfway through making it, you're like, but is this gonna is this gonna work out? Like, it's always very difficult. I mean, out of like all of the stuff that you use to sort of make it, you mentioned that you were like really into like sewing at the moment, or like it's something, but do you have like a favorite material to work with, or
I would say, if it was craft, like pure crafting and not sewing wise, I would say foam clay is probably my favorite.
yes,
I,
love
I
fun
love
play.
how forgiving it is. I've only ever dabbled a little bit in foam, like, you know, sheets of like for making armor or things like that. I mean, I have used it to make props, but I've every time that I've gone to try to make any kind of foam armor, I'm like, I don't enjoy this. It never quite goes right. But yeah, my favorite, I guess, yeah, medium to work with is foam clay for sure. I think it's so
Yeah,
soothing and
it
fun to
is.
smell.
And it kind of takes you back to sort of being like a child because like just like it's like plasticine, isn't it? It's just like you immediately just come in and just started making shapes, and it's like, oh yeah, like the little clay that you can put into the oven as well, that's like super drying
Yeah,
clay,
yeah,
just
yeah.
like, oh yeah, basically just sitting here and making shapes like I did when I was a kid with Play-Doh. But now it's
Yeah.
like turning into this like big ornate picture at the end kind of thing, which I think is it's just super fun. And like when it comes to, I mean, I literally hate sanding down any of them. Sanding down is like,
It's it takes a lot of patience, and I don't have the patience for it.
no. And I think if I just took at the sheer amount of time that I spent sanding down projects, that could be like a whole job in and of itself.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think to get that really smooth finish, because I'm sort of sometimes I sit there and look at other people, I'm like, how do you get it so smooth? And then they're like, oh, I spent hours and hours sanding it. And I'm like, ah, that's why mine are never smooth. I'm like, no, 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 that'll do.
yeah, like, oh, I've kind of done, yeah, that's fine. No, I literally like I honestly spend so long just sanding stuff down. And so a question that I have been asked a few times myself, so I wanted to sort of redirect the question to you as well and see what you thought, is when you've got like, say, the dress that you recently just made, it's quite a big project, I'd say, you know, it's quite a big, how do you sort of, you've got nothing done yet, how do you sort of approach that? Because like for me, I always get like, I've got so much to do, and like, I mean, personally I leave it till con crunch and I'm very bad for that, but
Yeah, yeah. I will say that my planning is sometimes lacking. I always start out with the best intentions and then I will procrastinate, unfortunately.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I would say like if I've got like yeah, if you've got a character that's got a lot to do, I tend to I pull out a sketchbook. I quite like drawing things out.
Mhm.
I will make a sketch of like the ideas that I've kind of got in my brain. I will try to put on paper, and then I will ruminate quite a long time before even putting anything into like, well, that was probably the wrong word, but you know what I mean.
I
I
know
will
what you mean. I
really
got the
think
gist.
um, you know, on how that might work.
Yeah.
And that takes quite some time actually, because someone else asked me a similar question recently, and I was like, you know what, actually, yeah, I do put a lot into the planning and the research and finding references and going away and looking at how other people have done it,
Mm,
which is super helpful. I think that's the biggest thing that I find the most helpful
mm,
is looking how other people have done something, because then it might either, I might go, yes, I'm going to use that and then apply something else that's a little bit different and do it my way, or I
mm,
might go, yeah, I'm going to do that exactly the same way.
yeah.
Um, you know, because they might go, oh, I've layered it this way, or they might have used something that I'm like, okay, I don't have a 3D printer kind of thing, or I haven't got, you know, whatever it is that they might have. And I'll be like, okay, I'll figure out a different way. But yeah, and then lists, really, lots of very long lists, but I kind of do it per week. So like a weekly,
Yeah.
and then I'll write out what I think I can achieve that week. Sometimes I'm like way off the mark of how long one piece will take.
I feel that.
And it takes hours longer than it should, or in my head than it should. But then it kind of then phases it and breaks it down a little bit more. Like
Mm,
so for Glinda, for example, I started off. I was like, okay, I'll do the circle skirt first. Then I'll worry about like the other bits. I'll kind of like see what elements of that costume,
mm.
break it down to the top. Maybe they've got wings or something. I'll break that into the wings, and then they compartmentalize and then list out what each part probably needs to have done.
I always find myself doing like the most fun bits first, and then I get to the bits that like aren't necessarily as fun, and I spent ages procrastinating doing those bits because like something has wings or horns, or like my Karlak horns I had done like literally like 6 months before I cosplayed because I was
Yeah.
just like, yes, I want to do the horns because that's fun. But yeah, I always find myself doing the fun bits. But have you heard of something called Notion?
No.
It's not an ad, guys. Like, I'm not. This is I. You don't have to even pay for it. I'm not sponsored or anything. But it's basically something that Mr. Ash introduced to me, which is basically, it's like a notepad, on kind of like online, and you can put like different sections in and like what. I'm really not doing it justice. Maybe at some point have a look at it, but it kind of gives you that sort of section by section, so you can take little bits of like a big project and put it into chunks, and you can put it into sections, and it kind of gives you that sort of list format. So the reason what I use it for is if I'm going to something like MCM or AnimeCon and I have several different cosplays and they all have several different items, and you know how it is. I have like a big thing for MCM, let's say, and then I've got one for Saturday, and then I've got the cosplay that I've got on Saturday, and then that's broken down into all of these items, and then that list is then broken down into other things, and it kind of gives it that, makes it kind of smaller, so it's an easier sort of chunks to bite off at once kind of
Yeah.
thing, if that makes sense. Because I always find when you're faced with a big task, it's like, I don't
Yeah.
want to do that. Like, I want to do it, but I don't want to do that.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, I think breaking it down to bite size, absolutely the way to go.
Absolutely.
Definitely how I do it. Absolutely.
100%, 100%. Like alongside that thing, like that sort of subject is like, what's your favorite part of making it? Like making stuff. Like I mentioned that like I really like making horns. If anyone on here has tuned into my lives before, I'm always sitting here making horns. Like I don't know how many characters, how many more characters I can cosplay that have horns just so I can make them. But what's kind of like your favorite part of making like a, like would it be like, I don't know, like what part of it would be your favorite?
I think making props is kind of my favorite part. And that's one thing that I aim for most characters is to always have a prop, even if there's someone who might not necessarily have something. So many years ago, when Sabrina, the Teenage Witch was popular on
I have a
Netflix.
cat called Salem.
Okay. And the new Netflix version. So I did her, but I didn't want to just have nothing because she was wearing like a red jumper and a skirt,
Yeah,
and then I always like to kind of go that extra mile, and I made like there was like the book with the eyeball in the middle.
yeah. Yes, I
So,
love that.
yeah, so I made that as well, and like each character I like to have a prop for them,
Mm.
and even with Morticia and Gomez. So I made Dexter, like my partner, I made him a paper cigar, like, and it was like a last minute thing. But I think the reason I like them so much is because it's almost like a bit like with the foam clay. It's like you just get to sit there and play and like just you kind of zone out of everything
Yeah,
else. And that for me is my favorite because sewing, as much as I adore it and I adore the end result, it gets stressful.
and
Whereas
tedious.
it's
Yeah.
long and it can be annoying, and like there's certain parts of it that I don't enjoy as much. Whereas if I just get to sit there, play with some paint from some foam,
Yeah.
and try to
It's
make
not
something.
so it's not so serious, is it? It's like
Yeah.
it's just a bit silly, and I think the thing is with little props and stuff, it kind of brings that flair to
Yeah.
a cosplay, so that there is obviously nothing wrong with not having props with the cosplay. Absolutely not. That's absolutely fine. But having a prop, I find, brings that flair. So when I did Willow from Our House, I kind of looked averagely normal in my Willow cosplay because it was just like a dress, like a short dress with like long sleeves, boots, and then like I had pigtails. Like I didn't really look very different. But then I added my staff that had the bee on it, and everyone was like stopping me and asking to look at the staff and things like that. And I was like, for me, that just gives it that extra sort of it gives it that little extra oomph kind of thing, and I love that. I think that's brilliant. It just makes your cosplay different from the next person's cosplay, and I do like sort of creating that kind of idea.
Yeah, because the thing is as well, like, I mean, I'm not saying that anyone who doesn't have a prop or anything, or if they're not into that kind of
No, of
fad by
course.
any means, but it's just fun to make them. It's a silly little thing. It can be like the smallest little thing, but I'll be like, I like this.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think one of my most silly ones I think is when I did Misa Amane from Death Note. Um, I just carried around a fake apple.
Yeah, yes.
I was like, this is brilliant. Like, there's no, I could have carried around a real one and no one would have known.
Yeah.
But and it's just something silly. It's not. That wasn't. I didn't make it. I bought it from online. It was just a little
Yeah.
polystyrene thing. But it just gives it that little bit of something different. Something a
Yeah.
bit interesting to look at, kind of thing. Um, so, what do you think out of everything you've made so far was the hardest thing to make? You're expecting this, weren't you?
Yeah. Wow. Uh, Two come to mind, and obviously one of them probably was Glinda.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But she has a reason in that I gave myself such a short time frame to try and make such a big dress. And I'm always such a perfectionist about my cosplays, and yet I can't expect perfection in about like 2.5 weeks for a
But
ball
we
gown.
can try as
we can,
cosplayers. We can try.
we can try, but we're probably not going to succeed. And then I think Karlak was the next one. She was a lot of straps, like so many straps. Um, you don't like just trying to figure out, because again, I started off well meaning. I was like, yeah, I'm going to be so accurate. It's going to be screen accurate. Every single strap is going to be in exactly the correct place.
It makes me laugh because I did exactly the same with my Karlak, and my Karlak looks nothing like it.
No, like, don't look at the back of my Karlak, please. It's an absolute car crash. I remember someone, bless them, the once they asked me, and I was like, oh, like they were like, oh, how did you do the back? And I was like, I mean, I'll show you, but you probably don't want to know what happened at the back. I was like, no one's going to look at the back. I can't see it. Like, it's fine.
That's the best part. The best part of cosplay is just like, yeah, let's only take photos from the front, please.
Don't look at the back. The fact that I'm walking around con and everyone else can see my back, as long as I can't see them looking at my back,
It
it's
doesn't
fine.
exist. It's fine.
It doesn't exist. Yeah, I think that was one of the hardest ones because I just didn't. I kind of just sat there staring at the screen for hours, and it's always. I think it's always one of those things that after you've made it yourself, you then see someone else make it, and then they have a really good way of doing it, and you're like, why did I not think of that?
Yes.
Yeah, and you're kind of like, that makes so much more sense.
In fairness, that was my exact experience because your really, really epic Karlak photos came out like I think it was something crazy, like 4 days after I cosplayed her, and I looked at your photos. I was like, "That's such what?" And I was like, and then obviously recently I've been messaging you like, "How did you do this? How did you do that?" Because I'm like, I need help.
Yeah, and like that's the thing. And I think that one thing that's really nice though is that people will do different approaches. And
Absolutely.
I think I love that because you're kind of like, again, and then you end up with this whole like, oh, well, I was thinking of doing it this way. And then you're kind of like, I would never think to do it that way, but that could work. And you're kind of, it's that collaboration as well when someone,
Absolutely. I think it's how you sort of bond and find friends in the cosplay community because I think obviously you do get people that are like, "Oh, don't do the same character as me." And I think that's just crazy. We don't mess with those people. But but when you can sort of find it, I mean, it's hard to find friends as an adult, isn't it? Like
yeah,
it's especially for me. I don't know about you, but for me, I'm a neurodivergent adult, so it gives that even extra steps. This it gets more difficult to find these friends. So when you can find something you're like, oh my gosh, that's brilliant, and sort of share your experiences with it, and especially when it comes to creating, and you have that same sort of passion about making stuff, it really sort of, I don't know, it sort of has that bond as opposed to, as I said, a lot of people that are like, oh, don't do the same character as me. And I'm just like, no.
yeah. It's ridiculous because it's like we don't, you don't own that character. Like, it, I don't understand it. And yeah, if anything, it's better because then you can ask them, how did you do that? Because it is amazing. And also like you're both cosplaying the same character from the same thing. Surely you both love the same thing. Like you
Yeah.
love it enough that you want to, either spend money or like spend time making or wearing a cosplay. So
Absolutely, absolutely. I think, yeah, no, I think having that and asking people those sorts of questions is how you sort of understand more about your own craft as well, and sort of understand more about your own abilities and learning stuff. I mean, if it hadn't have been for Mr. Ash, I would have never even learnt to sew. So, it's just that finding what you can do, in the sort of by basically just asking people.
yeah, who knew?
Who knew, hey? Talking to people, right?
Yeah.
But actually, this is kind of a good question alongside that is like, obviously you've mentioned your partner as well. Do you have like a way that you balance having this hobby, which can be consuming, alongside sort of real life stuff, like outside of TikTok, outside of cons, and all of that? Do you have a sort of rule that you have with yourself so that like con crunching and things like that don't become too consuming?
I mean, the only reason I'm giggling there is because I've just come out the other side of Con Crunch, as you well know. I haven't, like, it's my biggest thing. And the irony is that I released a video earlier this year being like, yeah, I'm going to leave Con Crunching behind, and didn't. This was probably
Do
the
we
worst
ever
one
though?
yet. They keep getting worse, and I'm like, it's not getting better. But no, I do try to. I mean, when I do have more of an idea, a better idea of a character that I want to cosplay in advance, I will sort of go, right, okay, I will look at how many weeks away we are, what realistically I'll be able to get done. I mean, there's always that bit of crunch time, unfortunately.
There always is, yeah,
I think there
absolutely.
always is.
Of course.
Even if you're the most prepared, like, I mean, I even sometimes have to crunch restyling a wig because I'm kind of like, oh yeah, I'm going to wear so and so. That's fine. It's all done. And then I'll be like, oh yeah, I just chucked the wig in the bag last time. I need to
I
redo that.
hate that so much. I did it with my Luna wig. I just literally day before con. I got everything ready, and I was just like, "Oh no, that's just at the bottom of a bag somewhere."
Yeah, it's just a rat's nest at the minute. That's great. So there's always going to be something, I think. But yeah, no. What I will say is that you have to make sure that you include breaks into the time that you're crafting. So I have a full-time job, so I'll work like, basically 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. But then I either work from the office or I work from home. And the office days, what I'll kind of do is I always make sure that after I get home from the office, I'll have like an hour of like decompression time, which
Yeah.
kind of that's my time to relax a little bit after work, and chill out a little bit before I sort of head into doing any crafting.
Mm.
And one thing that one of my close friends said to me the once, because sometimes I do really struggle to get out of that, like, oh, I've sat on the sofa. Oh, I don't really feel like crafting right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And she said movement before motivation. And I think it's a really good one because it means that it doesn't matter. Like, if you're going to sit there on the couch waiting for motivation to come find you,
Never gonna
probably
happen.
never going to happen. Whereas if you can just take yourself upstairs, even if it's just the bare minimum of sitting where it is that, I say upstairs because that's where I luckily have a craft room, but, or take yourself off to the space where you go to craft, even if it's just sort of sitting there, maybe reorganizing a little bit. Or another good one is something that's simple, because it kind of gets the cogs like moving again. So for example, like maybe it's painting a little bit of foam. Maybe it's just molding a little bit of something with foam clay. Maybe even it's just sketching out an idea. And that doesn't have to take very long. And what you then find, or certainly I find, is that then it's like, oh, okay, I've done that. What shall I do now then? Because I've
Yeah.
kind of got myself out of the rut, as it were.
Absolutely.
And it can be as small a movement as you like. I mean, it could be as simple as I'm just going to brush that wig out. And then you might find by the end of the evening, oh, I've completely styled the wig because I started brushing it and then I cracked on because I just was in the moment. But on the flip side of that, the one other thing I will say, especially in con crunch mode, is that sometimes when you're tired and you've been going all night, you have to have a cut off time,
Yeah.
because all of my mistakes most often happen is when I'm like really, really not feeling it. And even the movement before motivation has not got me anywhere. Trying to push on is worse than if I'd have done nothing at all, because I'll often make a stupid mistake. Like, so with sewing, I'll stitch something like, I'll sew up the arm sleeve by accident. So then you're like, now I've got to unpick the armhole or
Oh,
something,
unpicking.
something like that. And you're kind of like, okay, when I've done like a mistake like that, I'll go, right, okay, I need to either step back and have a break, or I'm going to go to bed. Like I never like pushing any kind of all-nighters. So even though I'm crunching, I will always make sure that I'm in bed or like have stopped doing anything by minimum 10 o'clock,
Yeah.
best 9 p.m. So I'll only ever really get a couple of hours. I think
Yeah.
I've kind of answered the question there, but it's
No.
a good one.
No, it is good, because I mean, I think the problem is, and I don't know if this has ever happened to you, and it's not a subject I go deeply into because it tends to attract them, but trolls online tend to have this understanding that we just dress up. We don't have real lives. We don't have jobs. We're still living at home with our parents, and they're paying for everything, and that's the case for some people, and that's fine. But but they tend to believe, a lot of people tend to believe, that we're just dressing up, and there's nothing to it, when actually no, we've obtained adult money and we are choosing to do this in our spare time. It's not just something that magically happens, whether that's even making it or buying it or whatever it is. We've obtained money to do this, and then we have to find the time to do it as well. So it's not something that just magically happens. And I think that's really important to sort of mention as well, that cosplayers are not, it doesn't just magically happen. Everything you see on your screen is not just, click your fingers and it's done. I really wish it was that easy. But I mean, you see these transitions and you're like, oh, out of cosplay, in cosplay. And if you'd never done it, you wouldn't know that actually it took me like an hour and a half just to put that corset on. It's a process. Like, the whole thing's a process, kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I sure wish it was a click of your fingers and you were in like
Oh yeah, I mean, I
full
think
body paint.
when people are like, oh, what would you wish your magic power would be? That would be it. Like, I could just
Yeah.
click my fingers and I would be in whatever cosplay I wanted. I think that would be. I mean, it could be completely useless apart from at cons, I suppose. But
You'd always be on time.
yeah, exactly. Never be late. So if you were to give any sort of like tips for beginner cosplayers, for people who didn't see your show, because you have already answered this on your panel, but for people who didn't get to see that, if you're like a beginner cosplayer, because I don't know if you have this, but a lot of people come to me and they're like, oh, I wish I could do that, and like, personally I answer, well, you can, but like, do you, because that's really the answer, but like, sort of what kind of tips would you give to people just starting out?
Oh, okay. Now I've got to try and remember what I said at the panel, because it might have been the perfect answer. But
I won't. In fairness, I can't remember word for word, so you're fine.
I think, oh gosh, realistically, you know what? I would pick a character that you absolutely adore, and have done for a very long time, because that's basically how I started out. I mean, I can only give the advice of kind of how I started, and that's how I did it. I chose Lara because I absolutely adored her. I knew the character inside out. I mean, I guess it might be different if you love the character, even if they're not necessarily like yourself. Whereas I see a lot of myself in Lara, and what I would like to be as well, I suppose. She's an adventurer, she's cool, she's, all those things. So it was kind of like, well, I'm absolutely going to do that. And I think the one thing that a lot of people forget as well is that they see, shall we say, I mean, I don't really like saying, like, maybe intermediate or more advanced cosplayers. I don't know how to phrase it really. And they'll go, oh, like you said, like, oh, I wish I could do that. And it's kind of like, yeah, but don't forget that they were at your starting point at one point. We all start somewhere.
Absolutely.
And, I certainly started out with cardboard props and paper mache, because that's kind of the skills that I knew at the time.
Absolutely.
So, be kind to yourself as well.
Yeah.
Picks or even if you don't necessarily want to make anything, there's absolutely no shame in buying a cosplay and just doing that. I mean, plenty of people do that. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think the biggest part I think is choosing the character that you want to cosplay wisely, because it could make or break the experience that you're going to have. And
Absolutely.
as we said earlier, there have been some where we thought, oh, I'm going to feel amazing and be really confident as this person. And then sometimes it's the flip side. So it's also being aware that that still happens to even more experienced cosplayers, that
Yeah.
you might not vibe with that character, and that's okay.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
Yeah, I think a really important thing to mention on that as well is that, and believe me, I have gone through the transition of my sort of cosplaying so far in my life, of when I was really, really early on, I sort of I saw cosplayers that were doing so well, like as this sort of like untouchable being. Do you know what I mean? That I can never be like that kind of thing. And then as that kind of question of how do you do this, or I could never do that, has been directed at me, I've started to realize that actually we are all in the same boat. We're all doing the same thing. And when you say stuff like, oh, I can't do this or I could never do that, we have also thought the same thing. So like, and this is one of the reasons that I wanted to start Ash Asks, because it's about someone, i.e. myself, who has viewed myself as like this tiny little person who does it, and everyone else is so big and amazing, and then actually have come into the place now where I'm realizing actually no, we are all the same. Like it's not anyone's better or worse than each other. It's not that in any length, not just cosplay, but we're all in the same boat. We're all trying to achieve the same thing. We've all got the similar passions, all of that. So it was that moment of me when I started thinking about creating Ash Asks, was that I was like, I want to be able to reach these people and ask them these questions and let them talk about their stuff on a level that shows that we're all the same. We're all in the same kind of boat kind of thing. Because I think there is, at very least there was for me when I started, this opinion that people who are good at their craft are better than you, and that's just not the case. It's not the case in any way, shape or form.
No, definitely not. I think, yeah, I totally get it though. I was exactly the same as well. Like, it's kind of funny because when I first started, like my first London one, like I was looking up to some people, like cosplayers and stuff, that I'm now friends with, and it's kind of like it's
Same
kind
with
of
me,
crazy.
exactly the same with
Kind
me.
of like, wow, at one point, like you were like, I mean, they still are because they're fantastic crafters. But like,
Absolutely,
my
yeah.
own brain, I had them on like this pedestal.
Absolutely.
But no, we're definitely all the same. I think sometimes the goalposts just move. That's all it is. I will still look at a character and go, oh, this is what am I trying to do here? I have no idea where to start. And that's the same feeling that I had when I was making my first one, for example. I think it's almost that you could almost compare it to like a fitness or something. It's like, maybe your like goalpost at that point is like, I want to run for a minute without stopping, but then you're trying to compare yourself to someone whose goal is, I'm going to run for 10 minutes without stopping, like that.
Absolutely.
It's like, but we're all feeling the same, like that run for that 1 minute person versus the 10-minute person. You've both experienced a tough run to get there. Like,
Absolutely.
I think, the weights just get heavier sometimes, which sounds really terrifying.
No, I
Yeah.
totally agree, because like obviously when I sort of personally when I started, it was more of a like, I just want to create something that my main goal was that if I created it and I wore it, that someone else would recognize the character I was. That was like my own goal, like my only goal. It wasn't necessarily that it had to be completely accurate or anything like that. It was just that someone could turn to me and go, that's the character you're in. And I was like absolutely happy as Larry with that. Like that made my day. And now my goal is to do stuff like make panels and create like content in that way where I can help others get to a similar place where I have now got to. But in doing that, obviously I am looking to creators like yourself, and I would say looking up, but I mean just like looking to in general, because again, we don't put people in pedestals, and to see how you've done awesome things like your panel and gone, do you know what, that's now the place that I would like to be in. And again, whilst remembering and understanding that we are all in the same, it's not even, I was going to say race, but it's not a race, so we're all in the
No, no,
same, we're
yeah,
all
not really.
feeling the same things, we're all looking to others and going, that's really inspirational, or I can do that. Or, and I think on several of my cosplays I've put like, I have taken inspiration from XYZ cosplayer to go, because you do take inspiration from people as
Yeah,
you move
yeah. I
along.
mean, like you definitely like, there's no world where you're not learning from either your peers or from someone else, right? So, there's we might as well acknowledge that. I mean, I certainly have. Like, we're all still learning as well. Absolutely, yeah. There was something else that I was just about to say that I was like, oh yeah, this is really
I'll
good.
put you
Oh,
off your track.
actually, I lost my thread. But yeah, no. So the panel that I recently did, I do want to shout out. So it's Mirror on the Wall Cosplays did
Yes.
do that panel. So I was very kindly invited along.
Mm.
But no, it was really good fun to be part of.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, like yeah, it's a brilliant goal to have, and I think making your own personal goals for yourself is
Mm.
probably the best way to do it, because so many people get lost in, I think especially more so these days, in the whole I want to have X amount of followers, I want to have,
$100%.
I expect X amount of views on my content and stuff. And I've certainly been there. Like, hands up, hands on heart, like, back in the
Absolutely.
day, that's where I was. And then like I slowly realized, I was like, this isn't healthy and it's not sustainable.
No.
I don't want my self-esteem to be tied into something that I quite literally cannot control. So then it's kind of a case of looking to the reason why I was cosplaying, because I took like a break through all of 2020, I think it was, from cosplay, like quite a long time. And I kind of came back into it to be like, hey, you know what? If I'm happy with what I'm putting out there, and if even if one person takes away something useful from what I've got to say, then I'm happy. And I've heard other people saying that, like, don't do content for other people. It's like they curate their page
Mm.
for themselves. I think it's Hugo. Yeah, Hugo does it.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
and it's kind of, that's a really nice way to look at it, because then you can look back and be like, I'm really proud of what I've achieved. And I think
100%.
that's the only competition and comparison that you should really be doing. I mean, comparison is probably another topic we could talk on for hours. Um, but like, sometimes reminding yourself where you were and how
Mm.
far you've come is just, it's the
Yeah.
best boost, I find. Like, you're kind of like,
Absolutely. I think when it comes to numbers and followers and likes and all of that, I think you can. I think the healthy thing to do. Obviously, each person knows their limits of what is healthy for them. But I think personally, anyway, what I do is like I do look at from where I aim to be and where I have come from. But I don't concentrate on what's going on right now. So like if a post gets X amount of likes or X amount of all of that, I'm just like, it is what it is. Did I enjoy making that video? Yes. So therefore, that's all that matters.
yeah,
I'm not going to delete it. I'm not going to get rid of it. I enjoyed it, and if people see it, I'm really happy that people have enjoyed it alongside me. But I enjoyed making it, so that's the main thing, kind of thing. The one process that I love about cosplaying on TikTok specifically, for me, it is filming it. So that's all that
yeah,
matters,
no,
really, in
I
my
get it. I
opinion.
get it. Yeah, it's really good. It's really good fun. Like, and if anything, like sometimes when I do like a vlog or something, I'm like, if anything, by sharing this, it's really lovely, because then you look back in a couple of years and you
Yeah.
get all those feels from it, and you're kind of like, oh yeah, I remember when that did happen, and like it's almost like a weirdly public family video. Do you know what I mean? Like back in the day when you had like a camcorder, you'd sit there and you'd watch them back. This is showing my age, but
No, I
um,
love it.
but it's almost like I've just got like an enshrined public kind of thing. So when I get to look back on them, I'm like, oh yeah, that was really good fun. Like I had a really good time, and who you
And you get
saw.
like memories from that con or whatever it was. Yeah, no, for sure. I totally agree with that as well. Um, so I've only got a few more questions, but I've got sort of, when you get to sort of in a big cosplay and something hits you that's like a setback, that's like you've sewn up a whole arm, like you said, or you've had to sit and unpick something. Or for me recently, I ran out of glue whilst gluing feathers to my wings. That was, I cried. Let's face it, I cried. Uh,
Okay, it happens to us all.
what's how do you deal with that? Like, is there a way that you go like, right, and deal through it?
I'm a crier as well. I will say that now. I think what the only thing that I have ever managed to do is, so say that that happened and I've sewn up an armhole, for example, and it has just kind of pushed me over the edge. It will, like, I will sit there, have a little cry, be like, I can't believe I just did this, go and complain to my boyfriend and be like, oh my God. Um, and then I will just have to walk away from it because I will know at that point that I'm so it'll have happened with a number of reasons. So it's either I'm really tired and pushing myself and not thinking. I'll have done the thing that I did wrong, and then I'll be really angry about it, so that
You
I
don't
know
want to angry so.
no, like I'm frustratedly crafting now.
Yeah.
And then I'll then probably be even more angry and then make more mess ups. And like I think the final one is kind of like sometimes I'll feel really defeated and I'll be like, I can't do this, I'm going to give up, I can't do it. And in every single one of those situations, it's like I just need to walk away
Yeah.
and leave it, whether it's half an hour, whether it's I come back to it the same day, whether I'm like, no, I'm not touching that till tomorrow. Like, that's kind of the best way that I kind of deal with it.
Yeah.
If someone else has a magical cure-all for how to deal with setbacks, that would be really
I think
helpful.
a cry and a walk away is probably just the way forward in most cases. Um, and sort of what would be your kind of like dream thing if like money was like no question, time was no question, if you could just have a cosplay and say you created it but could be here right now, what would you want to do?
I want to do Belle's ball gown, and I have been saying it for years. And the irony being is that I've just done Glinda's dress, and she's kind of my first foray into a like circle skirt, trying to pattern something to go over a hoop skirt. And I've always been just as kind of like, again, like we were talking earlier with the beginners, I've always been intimidated of that ball gown.
Yeah.
And it's just in my head. It's purely a figment of my imagination. And I
I
think
feel that.
it's because it's such a special costume that I would like to create. I'm like, oh, I can't do that yet. I can't. I'm not almost not confident in my own skills that I could do it. Whereas I'm sure I probably could, because that's how I felt with Eowyn, for example. So
Yeah.
it was really funny because I was looking back through my phone the other day, and you're just like scrolling whatever, and I found even going so far back as I think it was 2023, 22, I had saved reference photos of Eowyn in my phone, and I was like, wow, it still took me a good few years to really commit.
Yeah.
And I kind of said, I was like, you know what, I'm really glad that I did actually wait a little bit, just so that my sewing, because she was complicated. Oh my God. She was, sometimes I do pick them and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be so simple.
I feel that so much. I feel that.
So yeah, so Belle's ball gown in a very long-winded answer.
No, we love long-winded. I do understand though, because the moment you sort of realize how much a character means to you, and then you sort of go to cosplay them and you're like, oh, what if I mess this up? Like, I'd want to do the character justice. I mean, I had it with I don't know if you know Star Trek at all, but
Minimal.
well,
Yeah.
I had it with Data from Star Trek. I was like so in love with this character, but like, when you just not in love, but like, oh, you just love him. And I was like, and then Mr. Ash had created a top for him because they wear like uniform, and he created it years and years prior. and he was like, you can wear this, and we can wear it to a con. And I was like, I know, but what if I mess it up?
Oh.
It's just like, and you have that when you have that passion for a character, and like a
Yeah.
character backstory, and then you think, oh yeah, but if I mess it up, and you sort of doubt yourself. But seeing your Glinda dress, I have no doubt that you're ready, but obviously only you know. Only you know.
Oh, I don't know about that. I think I'll give myself longer than 2 weeks this time if I do
Yeah,
get
maybe that's
started.
that's the best bet. And also, how do you like stay motivated, like to
Oh,
keep creating?
I think, to be honest, I'm so as well planned and well meaning and organized as I try to be, I'm always chaotic.
Yes.
And sometimes I will go for a couple of months where I'm like, I have no new ideas. And this is basically what happened a little bit with the Glinda ball gown. Because we were supposed to be entering the variety performance at MCM, and we were going to be doing Fiero and Glinda, and that all kind of fell through because we realised it was never going to happen with what we wanted to do and everything else that we had going on in our lives.
Mm.
And then it was that, so that's why I ended up then being like, no, I still want to do Glinda, and I'm going to do her ball gown, and it's going to be possible in 2 weeks' time. So yeah, and that's how I ended up doing that. So sometimes I'm really planned, a bit like Karlak, for example. I actually, before I wore her for the first time, which I think was March 2024, because that was Insomnia, I'd already started the work on it, ironically on the horns, as you were saying earlier, because horns are fun.
Horns are fun.
I'd started doing that, I think, in the November or December. So
Yeah.
that was like a reason, for me, that was a long time.
Yeah, no, I feel I agree. I agree. Like anything over like 2 months is a long time
Yeah.
because you the thing is a lot of people who either don't know anything about cosplay or don't craft, and again, all completely valid, don't realize that because obviously everyone has, not everyone, but most people have 9 to 5 jobs, blah blah blah. So you think, oh, 2 months, I've got ages, but you think of how many days you can feasibly spend actually crafting or creating in those 2 months. It ends up only being like a total of like 48 hours altogether.
Yeah, yeah, because so say if you were to do maybe 2 hours an evening, and that's your like, because you've got other commitments outside of finishing work, then you've got to do the dinner, maybe some house chores, sleep, those kind of things.
Those things.
Other things. Um, Say you only work on it for like 2 hours, and then you maybe have a couple of weekends where you've got a full day, like maybe a full day Sunday each month. So realistically, you'd have like 8 full days, and I can't do maths, so however many hours that would be in a week, not many.
Yeah,
What's
not
two
many.
times five?
Yeah.
um,
You wouldn't have a lot.
Not a lot is
Yeah,
essentially. So
and that's why people say, "Oh, 2 months, oh, that's nothing," and it's actually, well, that's for like forever, and no, actually,
yeah, I mean,
it's not.
2 months solidly working on something, very different to 2 months part-time working on something.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've only got 2 more questions. So if you guys in the chat wanted to ask Katie any questions, I'm gonna finish off my ones. Obviously the normal rules apply. Only appropriate questions, and Katie has the right to say, I don't want to answer that question. Nothing weird, guys.
So there's no questions.
No personal questions. So my last 2 questions are sort of, when it comes to having a big dress like Glinda or big props or stuff like that, how, like, I don't need direct reasonings, but like, how do you store this stuff? Because I certainly struggle. Like, we have only a certain amount of space, and it seems to be just forever getting small.
Yeah, I mean, again, we've got two cosplayers in our household, like me and Dex, and the ironic thing is that we've just moved house to a bigger house, and it somehow feels smaller for storage. I'm like, how did we get this all in that house? And
Yeah.
yet we're struggling here. I mean, vacuum pack bags, godsends. Like, so any of my fabricy kind of ones, especially big dresses.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, yes, the hoop skirt obviously is very out and circular, but it kind of like you fold it down and bend it, and then you can like wrestle it into a bag and zip it up, and then you're like, cool, stay there. but then obviously you've got the skirt and everything else, and that you can fold up carefully and put it into a vacuum bag, and then just seal that up.
We love
And
collapsible
it
cosplays.
just, yeah, exactly, like stuff like that, really. And then I will have, in terms of like storage, again, I kind of need to go through and fully kind of relabel, reorganize, because I'm always between the whole, do I just have a wig box, or do
Yes.
I have the wig with the character and
100%.
everything for that character stored into one? It's kind of a rock and a hard place, because again, it's kind of like, but if I put all
Same
the
with like
props,
same with props as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're like, well, if I put all the props and everything with that character, they're now a bulky box. Whereas I can store stuff more easily in a wardrobe if it's either, like an outfit or a jacket or something. Props wise, I have pegboards,
All right.
and I display them proudly on my wall. And also, it kind of serves as a little bit of motivation, or like,
Yes.
when you're just having a bit of a rubbish day, and my work computer's in there too. So sometimes I'll just like lean back and be like, yeah, that was cool. Like this
that.
off staff, and it's not for everyone. You can of course make them so they compact down. I always badly plan mine, so I don't really ever think about trying to get things in a car or a train. I've only ever successfully made one that screws together.
Yeah. We make, because Mr. Ash is a brilliant 3D printer. We make ours to collapsible because we're always worried about height. So I'm always like, is it going to be too tall? And are they going to make me cut it in half to get through the con? Like, it's never happened yet, but there will be a day where they're like, too tall. So
Yeah,
we do
yeah,
end up
like, you're like,
what if I hold it this way?
you're like 8 foot, that's fine, right?
That's fine, yeah. So yeah, we do make them collapsible. We tend to anyway, but even for storage, I have currently just a corner of my office. I'm not going to show you my office right now because I think everyone watching would cry. It's relatively tidy right now, but I just have a corner of staffs.
Yes,
Like,
yes,
where do you put a staff with a staff topper? Like, there is no house is geared for that.
no, I know, no. I mean, that's why the wall is quite good. Like, I can just about get them lengthways. But yeah,
Nice.
I mean, not everyone necessarily wants to store them. So if I didn't do that, I have no idea. I would probably also have a corner of staffs.
Yeah. I think Mr. Ash has a sword wall
Oh,
thing,
Rock?
Yeah, that sounds right. I'll go with that. But yeah, I think that's definitely, no, it's definitely a good way forward. And my last question, so yeah, guys, if you do have a question, do pop it in the chat. But my last question for you, I don't know, so again, if this is too personal, we'll see. But if you don't have this hobby, is your hobby not your full-time job, I'm assuming, from what you've said. But would you have any advice for someone turning this into a full-time job? I mean, personally, I don't plan on doing that anytime soon. I just wondered if
Gosh.
you would.
I mean, it's tricky because yeah, I work full time, so I don't have like any experience in being a full time content person. All I can say is that from what I've seen online is finding who you are and bringing that to the space. Like, don't obviously directly copy someone, because obviously that's terrible. And their style is what I mean. But it's finding who you are, what your voice is, and what that sounds like, and your style, because people will be drawn to someone who's being authentically themselves.
And
That's
passionate as well.
and passionate, yeah,
Yeah,
of
for
course.
sure.
I feel like everyone's got something unique about them, whether it's the way that you're presenting something, whether it's the way that you like, maybe you're really strong at doing interviews, for example, like maybe that's your thing. For me, it's kind of like I love crafting, so I'm just going to record how I do that and presenting it in that way. Like, I think it's finding what your thing is that you really like.
And finding, like, trying lots of things as well, because
Yeah.
like the one thing, like, let's say, like, I started doing how you do your TikToks and how you like do the process of what you make. I don't have the patience for that, honestly. I have tried it. And every time I watch one of your videos, I'm like, damn, that's so impressive, because I personally realize as someone who's tried that it's not just, oh yeah, I just filmed it as I went, like literally slows you down.
Oh yeah, oh, it slows you down like 1,000 times. The amount of times where, to be fair, there is quite a lot that I have filmed as a whole and never released, because it's like it started off well and then crunch came, and so there's no footage, because then it just goes like, here's how you do, ta-da, you know. It's like there is no here's how you do it, because I stopped filming halfway through because I panicked.
It's quite funny actually, because I attempted, because I think I was watching one. I was watching one of your videos and I thought, I really want to do that with my wings. I want to have like this is how it started, this is where we ended kind of thing, because I have so many people going like, oh, I wish I could do stuff like that. I want to be like, well, you can. Here you go, kind of thing. I was going to go in the style of Katie Does Cosplay for inspiration, because I was literally like, I was filming it and I was like, this is taking like 500 years more than if I just done it.
Yeah, it does. No, it really does. Because yeah, again, I think I started Glinda well-meaning, and there is quite a chunk of stuff that I'm like, can't really use that because it doesn't really show anything. You kind of have me cutting the fabric out, and then the next thing you know, it's a full circle skirt, and it's like, okay, how did you go from A to B, please?
Just miss out a few steps, it's fine.
Yeah, so it's tough. That's one thing I will say, is that it is difficult. It's, sometimes, I think, as you were saying earlier with the like face paint, and then like 1 second you look normal, the next second you're in character. It's all the hours behind the scenes that you don't see, and it does take a very long time. Plus, not to mention editing. Like, not only is it the making side and filming it, it's the editing and all of the other post-production almost.
Absolutely, for sure. So a couple of questions in the chat. So we got Mr. Ash has asked, what is the next costuming / cosplay skill you're working on achieving?
Oh, wow. Okay, so this is like, it's an exclusive. No.
Exclusive, I love that. Katie Does Cosplay exclusive, guys. You heard it here first.
I'm going to try, and this is how much I said I hated it earlier, to do my first proper armor build.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Full body. It's not like full body. I'm not going to reveal who the character is just yet.
That's fair enough.
Because then that's too much commitment. And then
I understand. I completely understand.
But I have got in the process and the cogs working of a potential armor build. It won't be like a full armor build. When I say armor, for me, that's like, making some braces. And
100%. Yeah, it's not easy. Armor is not easy. So I commend you on that. I'm very much looking forward to seeing how that goes. Yeah. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing your magic A to B videos.
I'll be like,
hi guys, I've got a full suit of armor now.
Maybe I'll have to do that
one. So Nay asked, what's the funniest mishap that's ever happened from a cosplay? So have you accidentally like dyed your skin for multiple days? Cough cough. Ash, yeah, I did that.
Oh, my funniest. Oh my goodness, I've had so many that sometimes it's kind of like, which one's the best one? I think the one that was not funny at the time, but now that I look back on it, was pretty amusing, was when I was making Karlach. There was a lot of Karlach, and I had like these straps that I was trying to paint red. So I had red leather dye, because it was fake leather. I don't work with real leather, and I thought the lid was closed on the bottle. And I was working like on the floor, as you do, chaotically. I did have a little bit of newspaper, but I went to then pick up the bottle for whatever reason, and I think I thought it was shut, so I was like lifting it just to like move it out the way really quickly. And I think we all know where this is going.
Yep.
I spilled that red. The entire thing, it went all over me. So like all over my I had lovely white joggers, so don't craft in white joggers, people. Oh. It went all over that, so they're now pink. It went all over the floor, up the wall, like it just everywhere. And because it was red leather dye, and there was a tinge of pink stained permanently into the floor. And
Amazing.
yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I think I did cry because we said that we're criers at the time
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I
I
was
feel
not
that.
a happy bunny. But looking back, it's probably the worst one.
Yeah.
Um, I haven't really had too much happen to me malfunction wise at con. The only thing was that when I was Jessica Rabbit, I so you know that MCM used to do like sets and stuff. They had this
Yes.
bathtub thing. Yeah, so I was like, oh, I really want this cute picture as Jessica Rabbit in the bathtub. Yeah. Forgetting that I couldn't bend. I could not bend down in this sequin dress. It was so tight.
Oh my
I could
God.
barely sit. So I had to be like carefully lowered by my friends into it. Wanted me to be like, hi. And I'm not joking, they had to hoik me out. It was so ungraceful. And not flash everyone at the same time because I'd cut the slit so high.
Gosh.
It was a whole thing. Yeah.
That's insane. I mean I think that could be a whole TikTok video in and of itself, I reckon, just to see like the woes of behind the scenes of a cosplayers, because like I find it so amusing that sometimes I get like along the similar lines, I get sort of like kind of like uncomfortable flirty comments from people that we don't know, and at that point I've like whipped the wig off, I'm like bald cups off, like I've got my hair going crazy, I'm out of like a dress or like whatever top I was in, I'm in my pajamas, like my makeup's half sweated off, and I'm just looking at this comment like you don't even know what goes on behind the scenes, mate.
Oh god, yeah. Like I think there's nothing better than that feeling though after being in cosplay is just
Yeah.
ripping the whole thing off. Even if
It's
you've only
like
done it for like an hour, whether you've done a full day at con, you're like, just get this off.
yeah,
Get it off.
I feel like one of those the villains out of Scooby-Doo that just like
Yeah.
and behind the mask. Brilliant.
Oh.
Abby asks, where did you get the confidence to post videos on TikTok?
I think, well, it's a good question. I think, well, yeah, okay. So back in the day when I first started like TikTok, this was like, oh God, it was probably like 2019. Like it was still fairly like not, we hadn't had the 2020 rise to fame of what TikTok became.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, oh my God, you're on TikTok, that's for children at the time.
I had that view of it as well. It was so bad.
Yeah, it was fine, but I was just there like vibing because it was kind of like it was low key and like low effort, and it was kind of like I just want to use these silly filters and dress up as Harley Quinn and just do like these kind of things, because at that point it was very much lip syncing still. But it took me a long old time to do the tutorials and the voiceovers, and I think it is weird and it was awkward at first to post those first few videos. And I look back and again, as you say, I don't delete anything, they're still there. My first attempts at tutorials are still very cringy and they're still on my page and they forever will be, but it's just a case of just give it a go, because I think, and this is repeating the parrot of so many people online, especially content creators, is that it's no good just not posting. Like, if you want to be on TikTok and you want to grow as a content creator, you've got to post the videos. I think one thing that did really help though is that at times I would just record myself speaking and then play that back to myself, and it's kind of like that exposure over time. You kind of eventually forget, or you kind of like move past it a little bit. But yeah, I promise that you just have to kind of hit that button. I'm afraid there isn't.
I don't think anyone likes their own voice, do they? Like, no, I don't think I've ever heard. Well, that's actually a lie. There are probably many people who like the sound of their own voice, but I don't think like a lot of people go, "Oh yeah, I just love the sound of my own voice." Like, I think I'm the same. Certainly, like when Zumira, who was in the chat, was my first Ash Asks #1, and I was listening back to it when I was putting it on YouTube, and I was like, oh, I just hate how I sound. But at the same time, it's like you've just got to think. But that's how I sound. Like that's it. That's where we're at. I can't change that really. So here we are.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're really, really nervous and you really, really don't want to post anything, I think the best thing is just practice in your own time.
Mm,
It's almost like I kind of said a little bit about when you're doing poses in front of a camera. Just record yourself talking to camera,
mm,
and it does kind of suck that it is the only way to get better at it, but the more you practice and the more that you get used to seeing yourself on camera or doing a voiceover, for example, because yeah,
mm.
like that's the other thing. I kind of cheated when I first started. First of all, I just started off, doing the crafting videos of just my hands with
Yeah.
music, with a bit of
Yeah.
text over the top. Then I added in the layer of my voice,
Mm,
and eventually I've kind of started delving into doing YouTube,
mm,
which is very different. Like I still don't feel that comfortable speaking on camera,
mm.
and everyone kind of like, it's so funny because Troy, Captain Tempest, I'll give him a shout out. He loves to be like, "Where's your TikTok voice, Katie?"
I love
Because
that.
I have a voiceover voice,
You
and
definitely do, but I don't think it's too far from your normal
thank
voice.
you, that's very kind.
But I
Appreciate
think
it.
we do as well because I think I have a different live voice to a real voice. And so I do morning lives where I walk on my treadmill in the mornings, and we have like awesome chats, and it's very casual, and that is different to my Ash Asks voice where I sort of have the written questions and all that. I think you just do change your voice depending on what you're doing. I think that's normal.
Yeah, I think for me, when I'm doing the voiceovers, obviously I've got a certain amount of time to say it in, and you know, I have a script in front of me, so it's much
Mm,
easier for me to speed read and do it that way. Whereas in
mm.
real life, I'm way more all over the place.
Same. I'm just chaos everywhere. So Zoomera did do the same question that we asked earlier, which was what got you into cosplay. So we sort of did touch on that earlier. If you've missed any of this, I will, with obviously Katie's permission, pop it on YouTube, so you'll be able to catch up and watch any bits that you may have missed. Nay, I think a couple of your questions got filtered. I'm really sorry. We're having terrible problems at the moment with with problems with people getting filtered. Um, have you encountered any negativity due to doing cosplay from Zoomera?
I wouldn't. Well, yes, because I think all of us have. Definitely in public, you always get the weird looks, especially when you're not like in a group of you, when there's maybe just two of you walking down the street.
Mm.
Um, what else? I mean, there's definitely obviously been online trolls.
Oh,
Like,
there's always trolls. You
there's
have to
always
prepare
trolls.
yourself for trolls if you're going to
Yeah.
be online. It's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, you could be posting the most normal of not cosplay content, for example, and you're still going to get trolls. So,
Yeah.
cosplayers are definitely going to attract trolls. I just don't interact with them, block,
Mm.
delete, whatever. I think in real life, though, the more negative side of things, I think I've been quite lucky. I can't lie,
Mm.
but I also appreciate that, I'm a cis white woman at the end of the day. So I have, in comparison to others,
Mm.
that that I'm lucky in a certain position when it comes to cosplay. But at the same time, you will see, yeah, you still get those weird looks. You'll still get heckled. Oh my
Mm.
God, when I was walking down the road, even in London, as Glinda, I had like a white van drive past and they tooted us. And I just ignored them. And it was
Yeah.
just stuff like that. And again, we walked past oh God, what were they? They were like builders putting up some scaffolding
Mm.
or something. And they were like, "Oh, nice costumes," and you're just
Yeah.
like, "Oh, glad you like them."
Yeah.
Like, it's
You just got to meet them with the same vibe, because I think in the end, if you I think if you end up getting upset, you obviously you have to take the time to make sure that you're okay. But if you end up showing them you're upset, it just gives them more
Oh
to.
yeah, like
Yeah,
that's the thing. It's it, and half the time you kind of it sounds really bad and it's really stereotypical of me, but it was sort of like, oh no, it's a bunch of builders. Are we going to get comments? And then you're kind of not surprised when it happens.
yeah, exactly. It's like, oh
Um,
yeah, here we go.
yeah,
Okay.
and then there is also the negative attention, not negative in terms of like, you're gross, you're weird. There's the negative sexual attention.
Absolutely, yeah.
Unfortunately, you know, I've definitely had the worst experience was in Manchester, weirdly, and we were doing a shoot outside. I was Lucy from Cyberpunk and
Yes,
Dexter
yes, yes.
David, and we were shooting with someone. And where the convention center is, it's pretty much in the center of the city. So
Mm.
they just had hundreds of normal people walking past, and I was bent over. And Lucy's quite revealing if you don't know the character. She's got a lot of skin and stuff going on, anime character. And I was bending over like a pole and stuff, and these people were walking past, and he was like, he pulled like they walked past, and he pulled out his phone, and he was like, "Oh, hang on a minute, I just gotta zoom in on this." And he was doing that towards my derriere, and so I instantly sort of stood up straight, turned around, and gave him like the dirtiest look, just to be like, what are you doing? Like, I didn't
Yeah,
say anything to him because sometimes you don't know how people are going to react, and obviously there's
yeah.
also your own personal safety element.
Absolutely. You got to look after yourself at
Careful because you
first.
don't know how they're going to react. But the best that I could do in that situation was stand up straight, ruin what he was trying to do, turn around and eyeball him,
Mm.
and he was like, oh, and I was just like, okay, well, like,
Yeah.
it's really tough one. But yeah, unfortunately, fortunately enough, I haven't had any direct bullying, and I think
Mm.
I'm also of a certain age now where I'm kind of like, no, we're not.
Yeah.
We're not going to accept
We're
that.
adults here. Come on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
for sure, for sure. So Nate asks, do you have did you have like a distinct light bulb moment from being in cosplay that you're like, yeah, I want to do this forever. Like this is it. This is what I want to do.
Ooh,
She said, assuming that you do in fact want to cosplay forever.
yeah. Well, I think there's definitely going to come a point where I'm obviously probably a bit potentially tired of it, but I don't see myself ever stopping doing costumes, if that makes
Mm,
sense. Maybe I do see a point in the future where I'm like, actually, I'm going to swerve away from doing cosplay, but I might start maybe leaning more into LARP, or I
mm,
might just go down the historical clothing route. I don't feel that cosplay has an age limit because I saw some phenomenal cosplayers at London in full like armor suits and clearly like of an older generation, and I
mm.
was like, yeah, fair play to you, like
Absolutely.
like you're here. And I was like, and if you can do this, like fair play, because I'm
Yeah,
dying.
absolutely.
So
I totally. I mean, Mr. Ash is a little bit older than me, and I know that sometimes walking around for the entire day is hard on me, let alone someone whose knees are older than mine. So it's like when you see someone who is older, you don't think, oh, why are they dressing up like a lot of trolls do online? You think,
yeah.
damn, that's impressive.
Yeah, exactly. And I find it inspirational because sometimes you're kind of like, oh, like sometimes I do have that internalized feeling of like, oh, am I going to have to start thinking about it one day where I might have to stop? But then you see people like that and you're like, actually, no, that's a reminder and the inspiration of no,
Mm.
you don't. Like, you can keep going for as long as you want.
Yeah, that
Um,
Mr. Ash, you're an inspiration.
exactly. And you're kind of like, because we're all just, at the end of the day, like anyone doing it is pretty much obviously over the age of 18 is an adult in a
Yeah.
costume.
Yep.
And outside of our little community, I'm sure a lot of people look at us as like we're a weirdo. Whether you're a 20-year-old doing it or whether you're 60-year-olds doing it, you're
100%.
still going to be seen as a slightly weirdo person.
I just always use the thing, it's that you absolutely cannot please everyone. I have been too old to cosplay. I've been too young to cosplay. And like, you're always going to be someone's wrong. So you just got to be, all you got to do is just follow your passion for it. And if you're following your passion for it, it doesn't matter where you're going or what age you are or what you're doing, obviously with an exception. Got to always slip that in there. Yeah. As long as you've got a passion for it, that's like the main thing that sort of keeps you driven and keeps you
Yeah.
going the right direction, really.
I mean, I don't think I fully answered the question though, but like,
Sorry, I got into you.
if you're okay to keep going, I mean,
No, I'm good.
that's,
I'm good. I'm good. We love it. We love it.
yeah. So I think it's funny because I'm just trying to think back. So I did Poison Ivy, then I did Daenerys. It was when I made friends, really, because the first few cons were rough. As you said, making friends as an adult, and I will say that sometimes the cosplay community can be a little bit unfriendly. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
for
just gonna
sure.
say it as I see it because that's kind of how I felt initially. It, you know, I thought that going up to this meet that I was going to be like hanging out with these people, because I'd been invited down to a fan meet. So we were like, okay, yeah, we're going to go down and we're going to spend the weekend there. And then, I'm going to get to hang out with these new friends that I found online. And I didn't know the etiquette or anything like that around
No.
doing meets or anything at the time. So I had no idea that it was quite literally a 15-minute meetup and off everyone
And then
goes.
goes poof. You never see them
Yeah.
for the rest of the con.
Yeah. And luckily I'd taken someone with me.
Yeah.
And then we were both like, oh, right. Oh, okay, cool. So we're
What do we
not
do
going to
now?
go for like drinks and hang out and be friends. Cool. Okay.
Friend.
Friend. So I did find trying to crack into the scene quite intimidating. And then I dated someone from the scene and I made friends that way.
Well, I mean, it's a way.
It's a way, and I wouldn't recommend it for everyone. But yeah, I think, I mean, I'm a terrible socializer anyway. Like, I'm really awkward in real life.
Same.
So it is tough, and I think it's tough for a lot of people. So I don't have much help there, but like, I think, yeah, once I started making friends, I was like, yeah, okay, this is a pretty fun experience. I like the socializing aspect just as much as I do as the cosplay now. And sometimes it's kind of like I could just go for the evening part, like, the party part afterwards, rather than doing the cosplay all day. It's like I'll cozy up in the hotel all day and then I'll come out and say hello to
Come for a party.
I'll
Yeah,
go for a
yeah.
party.
I love that.
Yeah,
No,
yeah, yeah.
it's the way forward. I mean, I think con etiquette, though, just quickly touching on that, is quite difficult because I remember my first con, I just was like an excited Labrador, and like I just ran up to people and was like, oh my god, and I was in people's faces, and it just it wasn't until someone who is now a very good friend of mine stopped me and was like, I don't hug, that I even understood that people didn't just run up to each other and hug each other. Like, I thought that was a thing that just everyone did, because that's what my previous life, but prior to cons, was like. Like, you just ran up to people and hugged each other. That's how you said hi, right? And then it wasn't until I realized that cons, everyone has their different boundaries. Everyone has things that they do like and they don't like, and you have to be cautious around that. And it's like, con atmosphere is completely different to outside of con atmosphere, but some ways so much better and some ways so much worse. So for instance, at cons, if someone has a boundary, they will almost always just tell you. So if they say, I'm sorry, I really don't do hugs, they will almost certainly say that straight out to you. Whereas in public or outside of cons, I guess, it tends to be you just sort of go with whatever's like happening at the moment, don't you? So I think that's definitely a bonus, but yeah, it's a hard one to wrap your head around at first, of like, actually con environments are like very different to sort of real life, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Especially as you said, like, as you're new and perhaps you are older, perhaps, because I think, age plays a big factor in trying to make friends, because you become more cautious and it's don't you? You're like, oh no, have I offended someone? Oh,
Yes, yeah.
please like
Overthinking
me.
is like never ends. I mean,
Yeah.
literally, and this is just a silly thing. I messaged you after the panel that you were on and was like, I'm really sorry I had to go. But every time I was leaving, I was like, oh my god, everyone's gonna think that I'm just deserting. But no one notices. No one notices that thing. But it's little things like that in throughout a day of any amount of interactions. You think like you overthink every kind of interaction that
Mm.
happens, and
Uh,
you just sort of have to move past it. But I think in the con environment, everyone is doing the same thing, so you have that kind of level of if we're all anxious, we can all just be anxious about it together. Like it's fine.
I think so. And yeah, like at the end of the day as well, there's also the spotlight effect where you think like, oh my God, so and so is thinking about me and they're worrying about me. And it's like, actually, if I take myself out of this situation and if I apply that I'm all up in my head about me having offended so and so is probably also all up in their head about something
Absolutely,
else. So
100%.
realistically speaking, unless unless you have actually genuinely done something that's pretty bad, or like, you know, then I think you're okay.
Yeah, I think a lot of my friends I sort of have the rule with that's like, look, if I haven't told you that there's been a problem, there wasn't a problem, just it's fine. Like because I'm a very upfront person. I will tell people how it is, and if I haven't told you how it is in a negative way, it's not negative. It's fine. You're fine.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
because I can't deal with that. Oh, but they said this, and I just no. If I've got a problem, I'll just tell you.
Yeah, yeah.
And Abby asked if you could travel back 5 years, what would you tell yourself back then?
Oh, that's a good one. I think I would just say keep going. You're better than you think you are. Um, yeah, like have more confidence. And the thing is, like that, I could tell myself right now in this very moment.
Mm.
Dex was telling me the other week. Even when I was like Glinda, I was like, "Does it look any good?" And he was like, "Are you kidding me?" And I'm like,
I love that because you exude this energy of looking fabulous, but because I don't obviously I can't say that I know you super well, but I feel like we've had a few interactions that I know that when you were from when you were creating Glinda, you still had these question marks like, oh, does it look okay? Does it look good enough? And I literally when I saw you first, like because when I saw Katie first, right, she was on the ground like eating biscuits
yes.
with her dress just like woof, like
And I
poofing
was like,
around her, just like nim 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 nim. Hey, and I can tell you, even at that moment, she looked fantastic, and I was like, but I can tell that you were like you still have those fears of like,
oh,
oh, but does it look okay? And I just like wanted to put that out there. That never goes away for any of us. We all think that. Like every cosplayer you see has thought, but does it look okay? And you're looking at it going, oh my god, it looks amazing. Because obviously I was looking at Katie's dress going, just everything about this cosplay looks brilliant. But I knew that you were going, I don't know if this
yeah,
is okay. I don't know if this is
yeah,
good, kind of thing. So yeah, giving yourself that advice, I think, is probably the best thing I would say if
yeah.
you could.
Yeah, I think little me would be like, no, still wouldn't believe even
Yeah,
my own self, and I'd be like, no, keep going, you're pretty good. Just keep learning, and I think that's the thing is as well is keep learning and being
mm,
open to learning because I'm still learning,
absolutely.
absolutely still learning. I still feel like it's so funny because like again, like I could look back and people could look at me and be like, but you're so experienced in loads of things, and I'm like, I don't feel that way. I still feel like I'm a novice, especially in a lot
Yeah,
of things. Yeah.
it's definitely the thing that I forgot at the panel, which was imposter syndrome. And Mr. Ash was like, imposter syndrome, and I was like, oh yeah,
Yeah, no, imposter
it's a real
syndrome is
thing.
a huge and very real thing, and I definitely struggle with it. Like
Yeah.
even as you say, going into wearing Glinda, I was like, this is nowhere near as good, and like, everyone's going to notice my wonky sewing and all of that. And again, me and Dex both have to remind each other sometimes 80% rule. And I know we've probably spoken that before, where it's kind of like if 80% of what I'm wearing of is recognizable as the character,
Mm,
you're good.
yeah.
Have they got a very specific looking wig? Yes, cool. Okay, that's like 50% of it. Have they got a very specific top? That's maybe another 20%. Like, and once all
Mm,
those bits come together, then it's sort of like, oh, it's Glinda. I mean, sure. I mean, the thing is as well, I've even been in like full on Tomb Raider cosplays, and people still get what character I am wrong. You know, they still think I'm Katniss Everdeen, and I'm like, no, no, yes, she has a bow, but no.
Sometimes it can be disheartening when that happens, but I think at some point, at least, people are sort of appreciating the art that you've done, and they've applied it to a different character, and that's on them, I guess.
Well, I mean that's the thing, like, you know, and the thing is, I never want to correct people when they are walking past, purely because sometimes they're like, oh, it's Katniss, and like they're really excited, so you're kind of like, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, sure. I'm only gonna cry a little bit. It's fine.
yeah. Or sometimes again, like you appreciate that not everyone knows the character. So Glinda, she was, oh, it's a princess.
Yes. Yeah.
And I was like, that's fine. Like, it's vibes. I don't mind being a princess because I looked like a princess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that especially from children, it's not so. But yeah, I think it was, in my opinion, it was obviously it was, especially with the little. Did you make the wand?
Yeah.
It was brilliant. I always thought it was fabulous.
It was like 20 minutes the day before with a hot glue and a dream, okay?
Yes, hot glue and a dream is like literally the way forward with any prop. So that kind of concludes all my questions and all everyone's questions in the chat. So if you guys have enjoyed listening to us talk about everything, if you follow Katie Does Cosplay on here, where else can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram and also on YouTube. YouTube is slightly behind and not as up to date, but I will be.
Okay, neither's mine. It's fine.
But yeah, Instagram as well. All under the same handle, Katie Does Cosplay.
I love it when that happens.
And yeah.
So if you haven't managed to make the whole thing today, that's absolutely fine. We know that life gets in the way. We've been basically talking about it for an hour and a half. But yeah, life gets in the way, so it's all good. But this will be up hopefully on YouTube after this. It will be up within the next sort of like 24 hours, I would imagine, because for some reason it takes forever to download off of TikTok. So but yeah, so if you do, go drop Katie a follow and go find them on Instagram as well. And yeah, so thank you so much, Katie, for joining today. I really appreciate you being the second person on Ash Asks.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I had loads of fun. Yeah.
Brilliant. No worries. I shall catch you guys later. Thank you so much, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.